Welcome to the 2025 Vecellio Distinguished Lecture. I'm David Ford. I'm the Vecellio Professor of Construction Engineering and Management in the VIA Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering here at Virginia Tech. A few logistics first. We have two exits to this room. If we need to evacuate, then use them, and the meeting point will be at the facade that's outside the building. Following the lecture, I invite you to join us on the third floor for a reception for more discussion and food and such as that. We have several people to thank for this lecture being available. First and foremost, the Vecellio family that provided the endowment that helps to fund this lecture and scholarships and fellowships and the professorship that I hold. We're pleased to recognize Mr. Leo Vecellio, who's with us here today. Thank you. There are also leaders here at Virginia Tech, which make this possible. Dean Julie Ross, who can't be with us today. Mark Widdowson is the department head of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and Brian Kleiner is the director of the Myers-Lawson School of Construction. I also thank Lily K. Litton, who is our hostess, and our Vecellio scholars and fellows who I'll be introducing here in just a second. Thank you very much for all of that. This is all their smiling faces. One of the important things that the endowment does is allow us to financially support excellent students here in civil engineering and the Vecellio program. The faculty has selected 8 scholars and fellows this year. Let me introduce them to you. Nada Abdelmad is from Cairo. She has work experience in project management as an assistant, project controls consistent, and doing a critical path method scheduling consultant. Her plan is to get a job in academia and eventually to own a consulting firm. Rory Oden is from Pennsylvania. She's worked with civil and environmental consultants, a development corporation, and the Pennsylvania DOT. She plans on graduating from our graduate program in 2026 and then getting her PE license. Mayor Parab is from Mumbai, India. He's done work with residential and commercial and worked in geotech. Plans on graduating this fall and then pursuing his EIT. Paula Jaramillo is from Ecuador and has done both public and private construction work, worked in 3D for VA, will graduate soon and then start her OPT. Susan West, as you can see, is active duty serving in our Coast Guard. Thank you for your service. From Florida. She's, as you can see, held positions in the Coast Guard, also worked as a civil engineering designer, and will, when she's done here, will return to active duty. Moving from our fellows to our scholars, Garrett Beggs is from Chapel Hill. He has worked on a Tesla battery factory, worked for Clark Constructions and Collins Engineers and another firm. He plans to graduate with his undergraduate degree this December and then work on the next generation of manufacturing facilities. He can tell good stories about how Tesla is trying to design and build their manufacturing plants. Catch him at the reception. Catherine Caputo is from Round Hill here in Virginia and has worked for an ME contractor and E.E. Reed construction company. She's going to finish up her degree here and then get a full-time job with Southland Industries, who she's worked with before. If that's not an advertisement for the importance of internships, then we can talk. Abby DeCosta is from Dublin, Virginia, has worked for TRC in Blacksburg, will graduate in this year and then pursue a graduate degree. She's interested in research. Please help me to congratulate these excellent students in our program. For many years, The way in which we put together built infrastructure was using design, bid, build. It was the way we did it. But when interest rates shot up in the early 70s, owners began to recognize how much money they could save if we could build our products faster. And therefore, they leaned on us. They came to the construction industry and said, you gotta figure out a way to build these things fast. And we came up with the fast track process, in which we overlap the phases instead of doing them totally sequentially so that we could finish projects faster. But unintended side effects of trying to implement that caused a lot of problems. And so that we weren't getting all of the benefits which we initially thought we would. For example, this is data from the Rattlesnake project. This is real data. The x-axis is time. The y-axis is getting stuff done from 0% done to 100% done. The dashed line is the original plan. The solid line is what really happened. This was a fast track project. This behavior mode, the shape over time, is called the 90% syndrome. It's called that because you get about 90% of your planned scope done in the planned duration, but it takes you about another planned duration to actually finish the job. So I've actually done some research on this, so we'll spend the next hour listening to me drone on about no, we won't. The fast track process for project delivery has oftentimes not captured all of the promised benefits or the potential for making our projects faster. We needed alternative project delivery approaches. As we at Virginia Tech work to put ut prosim that I may serve into practice in our industry, we need to ask at least a few important questions. What are the alternative project delivery processes and methods and tools for developing our built infrastructures that our communities and our states and our nation and the world need to fulfill the enormous need for built civil structures? What are the benefits that we can derive by developing and implementing these alternative and truly different approaches? And what are the challenges in making that happen? Today, we're going to learn from our speaker about alternative built infrastructure delivery processes. And you're going to get some good career advice along the way. Charlie Kilpatrick is a Hokie. He earned a civil engineering degree from the VIA department. Since then, he has had a distinguished career of over 40 years where he has become a leader in our industry, including as the Chief Deputy Commissioner and then the Commissioner of VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation. An executive with the Lane Construction Company, a major contractor here in the United States. He's led major transportation initiatives and complex contract negotiations. Now he works for Atkins Realis as their National Alternative Delivery Director. No one is better placed to help us understand and apply alternative delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the 2025 Vecellio Distinguished Lecturer, Charlie Kilpatrick. Should we go back to the beginning?
Don't peek.
Don't peek.
Don't peek. You'll ruin the surprise. That's it.
You ready?
I am ready. Thank you, Professor Ford. Thank you, Mr. Vecellio, for your generosity and for giving us this opportunity today. when you called, both of you reached out to me back in the spring and said, hey, would you be interested in this distinguished lecture series? I started laughing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The word distinguished in me, I had a distinguished career, and I'll talk about that later here at Virginia Tech. It's a different kind of distinguished. But I'm so honored to have this opportunity to be here today and to talk with you. I would tell you that I'm not an expert on anything. I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I've made a lot of mistakes over my career, and so some of my good judgment comes from the mistakes that I've made over that time. I'm gonna do things a little differently. I'm gonna start with the presentation stuff, the boring stuff, the contract, the maybe academic stuff, and then I'll talk a little bit about my career at the end and talk about and offer some free advice. And again, the good thing about free advice is you're not going to lose any. You'll get your money's worth. You'll get your money's worth with the free advice for sure. Before I start, one thing I wanted to recognize. It's World Mental Health Day. And I didn't realize that till this morning. I listened to the news this morning, and they're announcing it's World Mental Health Day. And I will tell you that in my career, 47 plus years now, as a student here at Virginia Tech, I didn't think about mental health at all. I didn't think about it. It wasn't a thing that I would think about. But I realize today how important that is for me, for my family, for the people I work with, and just for the broader our society. So again, I wanted to highlight that today. I just thought it was very important when I heard that this morning. As I start this discussion, again, I'm going to talk about advancements in maybe the state of the practice in what's called collaborative and alternative delivery contracting. My title here, we're going to have to work on this, but we'll talk a little bit about can the golden rule work in construction contracting? And it's a tall order. It's a tall order, folks, because I think that there's tension built into contracting sometimes that is difficult to overcome. So just to set everybody straight on what's the golden rule, and I just pulled this off the internet. By the way, I did not use ChatGPT or any kind of artificial intelligence. This slide presentation is just my lack of intelligence. So if the font looks messed up and all that's what happens. But I threw this up here. You look at it, it's said a bunch of different ways in different cultures. These happen to be more faith-based, but even culturally, you'll see the same thing. Fundamentally, that people want to be treated. They want to the golden rule is to treat others the way you'd like to be treated. So in the contracting world, that becomes a challenge because sometimes contracting is thought more of as a boxing match or it's a win-lose situation. You're buying a car, you're buying a house. It is you could see it more of a give and take. But in the construction world especially, a lot of times it boils down to, and it feels like when you're in the trenches, it feels like a fight, and you're winning or you're losing. And what I'm going to offer today are some of the things that are going on in the industry and some of my thoughts about maybe there is a better way. So to kind of level set things on, what is contracting? These are there's an offer, there's an acceptance, there's a consideration, and there's capacity. And why do you have contracts? Because you need to create a legal framework between parties. It helps conduct those business transactions, and it provides some structure. But I'd also tell you the best contracts that I was ever involved in, the contract was executed, we stuffed it in the drawer, and we never looked at it again until the job was over. Those were the very best jobs that I've been involved in. There was a meeting of the minds between the parties, and we knew what the mission was, what we were trying to deliver, and the parties worked together, and the use of the contract was sort of minimized. One thing throughout the presentation, I throw some pictures up. I've collected pictures over the years. This one happens to be a tunnel boring machine, so I'll wander a little bit because there is a little show and tell here. This is a tunnel boring machine. I think this was at Lake Mead in Nevada. The company I worked for, Lane, was owned by an Italian company, and their tunnel boring machine, they built what was the water intake for Lake Mead. So if you've ever been out to Las Vegas, you've been to the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead, it's a huge lake. It provides water supply to Nevada, to Las Vegas and other areas. Well, the water level's been dropping over the years, and the worry was that the intake was going to be exposed and no longer be able to draw water. So what this machine did, it bored out into the middle of the lake, and our company dropped a bathtub drain in the middle of the lake. I don't know how else to describe it. They blasted a hole in the bottom of the lake. They put this bathtub drain in, and that's what it looked like. It looked like a giant bathtub drain, bored in from the shoreline and created the new intake. So this was I think it was originally conceived as a bid-build job and ultimately sort of morphed into more of a design build, especially with the techniques used for the boring equipment. That boring machine looks big there. The one at Hampton Roads, I think some of you were here last year for the presentation, is 40-some feet in diameter. The one that was used in Seattle was over 50 feet in diameter. So these things can be enormous. So a little bit about kind of the differences in the contracting methods. Professor talked about the traditional bid-build or design bid-build. And now there's some other, I'm going to talk about these others here on this. But as you look at this graphic, it's sort of what is the decision based on? How is a contractor selected? Is it based on price or qualifications? And are there separate contracts between the engineer and the contractor? This is a little bit oversimplified, but if we start in the upper left corner, that happens to be a design bid build project. That's a water treatment plant. And in that case, the engineering company working for the owner designed a full set of construction documents, 100%. The contractor bid on that, a lump sum, based on those drawings and those quantities. So the next is design build. This is another tunnel boring machine. This one, I believe, is DC Water. It's a water tunnel in Southwest Washington. This was a design build. In this case, the owner did some preliminary work, went out to the industry, said, contractors, hire a designer, and you two together come up with a solution that matches my preliminary design. So in that case, you have the engineer and the contractor are on the same team working for the owner. It's still largely price driven. The third is what's called CMGC or CMAR. CMGC is construction manager, general contractor, and CMAR is CM at risk. They're versions of the same thing, but fundamentally, the owner hires an engineer, and then the owner hires a contractor based on qualifications, and those parties together, and you'll see some slides later that give more detail, develop the final plans, and ultimately, if the price is right, will deliver the work. Finally, this progressive design build is sort of a new variation, a new flavor of design build, where the contractor and the engineer together are selected based on qualifications without price being a component. They then, once they enter into contract with the owner, begin to develop the plans and the pricing, and you'll see what that looks like graphically in a minute, to develop a final guaranteed maximum price, and if the owner agrees, then proceed forward with the construction. I didn't tell you where these other two were. The CMGC project is, and I'll show you some slides on that later, that's I-70 west of Denver. It's called Floyd Hill. It's out in the middle of the Rocky Mountains on your way to Aspen and Vail. And then this graphic down on the bottom is I-75 north of Orlando. It's a widening project that's underway right now. So again, the delivery methods, and I'll hit these pretty quickly because we've already sort of talked about them. Design, bid, build. Most of my early career working for VDOT, projects were design, bid, build. Either we would design them or we would have a consultant design them for us. These are typically roadway improvement projects or bridge projects. We would design them 100%. The engineer of record would be hired and owned or paid by us, and we would own the plan set. We would then put it out to bid, and the contractors would bid. They would typically bid the plans with unit prices for quantities that we would provide for them. and then deliver the work. So design build, again, is where the designer and the contractor are on the same team. They are working up through the owner. And then you see at the top in the tan, the preliminary work is done in advance of the procurement. So this is now where we get into what I'd consider more collaborative. There's collaboration in all levels of contracting, but this is more, I'll call it more aggressive and more focused collaboration during the development of the plans. So in this, and you'll see this in the next slide, the fundamental difference is where does the engineer, is the engineer on the owner side, is the engineer on the contractor side? And I'll talk a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of both those. But in a CMGC type of arrangement, the owner hires an engineer, and then the owner hires a construction company, and it's based on qualifications. And then the engineer, the contractor, and the owner together advance the design, advance the pricing, go through the risk evaluation, and try to find the best solution that ultimately the contractor prices. And that's really what the line is there. So the contractor comes to a final price, says, this is how much I can do it for. The owner either, and there's negotiation, but the owner either accepts that price, or if they can't reach agreement, the owner can offload the contractor, take the plans that have been developed, and move forward with some other procurement method, likely a design bid build. So it gives an off-ramp to the owner if they can't agree on price. Because again, the owner doesn't know what the price is when they have selected the contractor. So there's not that competitive price tension. And then in progressive, what happens here is that again, back to where's the engineer? The engineer is on the design build team with the contractor. So the contractor, excuse me, hires the engineer. But similarly, you're developing the product, the pricing, the risk, going through the evaluation with the owner and advancing the design up to a point where you will develop a guaranteed maximum price. Owner accepts it, you move forward. Owner rejects it. In many cases, the engineer is retained and taken on by the owner to finish the work, finish the design work, and then it's bid out. So this just gives a little bit of a view of, timing and overlap. And I think the thing I'd call on this slide is you see the very linear makeup of a design bid build. It's very much you got to finish this before you start that. And so the process for developing a project is you're doing some preliminary, you're doing environmental work up through permitting. You are doing the design work itself, and then you're going to go buy the right-of-way, and then you're going to move the utilities. And once all that's done, then you're going to put it out to bid. Now there's some variations, but that's fundamentally how it works. And you can't start step 2 until you finish step 1. And so it's very linear and can be somewhat inefficient. In CMGC, you see in all of the others where things start to sit on top of each other and overlap. And I wanted to make sure that it was clear that the tip-to-tip time frame of doing these alternate deliveries, which are the bottom 3, is somewhat shorter, the overall time. And a lot of that is driven by the ability to overlap activities. So again, you don't have to finish one to start the next one. You just have to be far enough along that the next activity can begin. So maybe you start design on a particularly critical area. Maybe it's a bridge that takes a long time. You start that early. You go out and you start buying the right-of-way. So you're buying the right-of-way while you're finishing the other work, and that way you're able to keep things rolling. So this is just another way of looking at the same thing. I think that a couple things I'd highlight here. Again, you see the overall duration is typically much longer in design bid build. And you'll also see where pricing occurs. So pricing occurs the furthest out in a bid build project, because at that point you are getting a hard bid from 2, 3, 4, 10 bidders. Where in design build, and this is one of the challenges of what's now become traditional design build, you're getting pricing fairly early in the process before the plans are developed. I show it at about 90%. That's overly ambitious. Most of the time it's 20, 30% when you're having to get the fixed price on the on the project. So you'll see that when you're pricing that early in a job before the design is completed, you're having to figure out, is it really going to cost this much? Have I accounted for all the risk? Is the design finished? So I'm building in cost potentially at that point to cover myself. Because once I give that fixed price, the price is the price, and I have to live with it. In CMGC and Progressive, now you're seeing multiple pricings and multiple opportunities to look at it, say, does that look right? No, that doesn't look right. That's too much. What do we need to do? Do we need to change the risk profile? Do we need to take some stuff out? I want a new bridge. Well, maybe you can't afford a new bridge. Maybe we'll just fix the bridge that you already have. So again, this gives you, kind of a graphic of some of the differences. So now I want to focus a little bit more on CMGC and on progressive design build, which I would consider a much more collaborative process. In both of these processes, the owner is selecting the contractor without knowing the price. Now they have a budget and they know what they want to pay, but they don't know what the final price is. But they have signed on with this contractor based on the qualifications of either the contractor or the contractor and the designer together. So this is we look here, this is some examples of and I think I cheated here. The first picture is Purple Line in Maryland, suburban Maryland. This one is, and I'm going to throw another twist into. This is a design build, but it's also a P3. It's a full DBFOM light rail system in suburban Maryland. When I was with Lane, I was with the contractor that was originally building it. I'm with Atkins Realis now, and we're the engineer of record. So the other thing you'll find in your career, sometimes things come full circle. You're on one side one day, and you're on the other side the next day. In the bottom left is that's another tunnel in Southwest Washington. I think that's a retrieval pit. I was trying to figure this morning. It's either the launch pit or the retrieval. I think it's a retrieval pit for the tunneling machine. They put it together in parts and stuff it in the hole, and it comes out the other, and then they take it apart and lift it out. Now, if you're a tunneling guy, I would have just insulted you because that's way too, I've oversimplified a crazy complex thing. And then the picture down in the lower right is that's a design build project in Florida. I know it's Florida because there's water everywhere, and the horizon is just flat, straight, and level. And then in the upper right corner, that is part of the Coalfields Expressway. That's actually the highest bridge in Virginia, and for a number of years, it was the bridge to nowhere. I don't want to go into the details because I was partly responsible for it, but it was part of the Coalfield. It is part of the Coalfields Expressway. In the distance is Kentucky, in the foreground is Virginia. It was crossing a ditch about the size of this aisle here, but it was over 200 feet in the air. It's actually taller than the Smart Road Bridge. So some key terms as we talk about this contracting model. The guaranteed maximum price is I would say it this way, it's the maximum price the owner expects to pay. It's still not necessarily the maximum price the owner is going to pay. But that's the fundamental of that is that's the price certainty that the owner is looking for. And so in both CMGC and in Progressive, the contract is developed, and there are touch points at various levels of completion of the drawings where the owner can see where is the price headed. The owner can also require, as part of either of these processes, instead of the contractor saying, here's my number, in order to try to get some competition, the owner can say, you're going to have to bid out some portion of the work to multiple subcontractors. And what that does is the contractor sets up a criteria for for soliciting the subcontracted work, but the contractor then has to take the lowest responsible bid. And so it's a little bit of a way that owners can say, yeah, I'm getting some competition and I'm getting competitive pricing. I've seen some contracts where they require a high level of self-performance, and I've seen other progressive design builds. There's one in Tampa right now, it's over $1 billion, and they are requiring 70% of the work to be contracted out. So the contractor can only do self-perform 30% of the work, and 70% is competitively procured. Another aspect of this are the exit ramps. And what the exit ramps are, it's an avenue that the owner can say, no, this isn't working. I'll pay you for what you've done. Have a nice day. Go home. And one example of that is, again, if that GMP is just not acceptable, either they don't like the pricing that came from the contractor, or they just don't have the money and they may have to back up. And this has happened. This has happened on both progressive and CMGC projects around the country, all different types, roadway, dams, transit jobs where there was not a meeting of the minds between the contractor and the owner. And so they've had to step back and reset. The ones that I'm aware of still are in this state of flux about trying to figure out what to do. In the end, it's probably going to be they need to find some more money. So these are, again, these are the same graphs from before. Under the CMGC procurement, the owner procures a consultant and the construction manager, 2 separate contracts again, and then the construction manager, which is the contractor, it's the same person, is working in developing of the plans and developing of the concepts and de-risking the job. Now, I realize I've been talking about risk a bunch, but I haven't said what risk is. Risk can be quite a lot of things, but some of the risks that will occur are escalation of costs. So some of these jobs can be 5 or 6 years long. Think about your freshman year at Virginia Tech and where you are today. Are you clear? Are you in the place you thought you'd be 4 years later or 3 years later? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not. I wasn't. I can tell you that. So I think that's a challenge. Is being able to anticipate what the cost of things are in the future. Other risks are, what's the labor force going to look like? Is there going to be ample labor to deliver the work? We're in a recession. There's plenty of labor. Everybody wants to work, and then all of a sudden, Tesla wants to build a battery plant. Everybody goes to that. Now you don't have people. So that's another risk. Bad things in the ground. That's a huge risk for contractors. Bad stuff in the ground. It's soft ground. The ground's too soft. The ground's too hard. It's too wet. It's too dry. Utilities, paleontological, artifacts, ancient ruins. And I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is actually stuff that's fairly common. Unmarked utilities in the wrong place, poor bearing soil, all of these types of things that are risks that have to be assigned to someone. And so part of this process is evaluating between the contractor and the owner and the designer these risks. And does the owner say, well, I'll keep that risk. I'll have a contingency pool. If you hit soft ground, you're drilling a shaft for a foundation, you hit soft ground, I'll pay you for that. Other owners say, no, that's on you, contractor. And so, but the advantage of this process is it's a more rational decision instead of I send a set of documents out and you bid on what I send you. So it's a much more integrated process for evaluating those things. So in terms of construction in CMGC, what happens is you get through the design phase, you get to a price, and then typically it's a new contract, but sometimes it's an amendment to the original contractor that takes you through construction. This method is used a lot in vertical construction, but in heavy civil, and that's really what I'm talking about mostly here, which is, I'll just call it everything horizontal. It's beginning to take hold also. Some owners, some DOTs particularly like this method. Colorado DOT uses it almost exclusively. Nevada DOT uses it quite a bit. Utah DOT has used it for decades. It's interesting, back east, it's not that common to be used with DOTs, or at least hasn't in the past. So in the progressive design build, back to, it's a one-step qualification process. You're picked, there's no GMP. A lot of the professional services in this design phase is cost plus. They pay my salary plus a multiplier because as a designer, I'm going through this iterative process. They'll establish a budget, but I'll be paid for the work I perform. The construction itself can be some combination of time and material and lump sum. And time and material is an overstatement. It's more of a unit price contracting versus truly time and material. But it can be done as sort of a combination of either or both of those things. In a progressive design build, in some ways it acts similar to the CMGC, but a fundamental difference is that engineer is working for the contractor, and what the contractor needs to build something is not always what the owner thinks they need in terms of design. Because owners are used to doing bid-build kind of work where you have 100% sets of plans and you have these notes go here, and this goes here, and this goes there. And it becomes the document where a contractor looks at plan sets as a tool for delivering the work. And it's a bit of a mindset difference. Contractor only needs plans sufficient to understand what's being built. Doesn't need all the documentation and all the other stuff that goes with it. So there are some efficiencies. There are some contractors that prefer, and let me go to that slide. Yes, some disadvantages and advantages. So as we look at these, some of the advantages on both CMGC and progressive design build, we've talked about these: early involvement. You can develop the cost. There's some exit ramp options, and there's some flexibility in changing. Some of the disadvantages: you don't know what the price is when you sign up. The exit ramp's going to cause delays. It's not likely; it will cause delays. It does require good faith amongst the parties. Back to the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. It's hard when there's tensions of a project and pressures of money and time and politics and all the other good stuff. It takes more resources in terms of the owner's got to be more engaged. And the owner wants, I want the marble floor and I want the gold fixtures. Well, that's the problem with where you're advancing the design. You're going to pay for that. Some specific disadvantages of CMGC. Some advantages: the owner fully owns and manages the engineer, can direct them. The disadvantages: you got two contracts, and it is a little bit of a forced marriage between the contractor and the engineer of record. Some PDB specific advantages and disadvantages. Again, single contract. I'm the owner. I'm only dealing with one party, and I'm getting better collaboration between the engineer and the contractor. But I have a little bit less control over the design, and there's a little bit less transparency. Some of the characteristics of a good job is you're getting that input early on. If it's a job with complex means and methods, and I've got a couple examples here. If it's difficult to define scope, if you've got a lot of friends and neighbors that are affecting your job, utilities, railroads, permitting, local stakeholders, you have a better ability to work through some of those things. And it says risk can be engineered out. Risk is often engineered out by more information. And that's a lot of times driven by getting the right information. If the risk is geotech information, you go out and you do more borings where that is important. So you make sure where you're punching that hole for that foundation, you've got good bearing material. Or you pothole for utilities. You do advanced right-of-way acquisition. All of these things can help reduce the risk. Some important success factors, and it's called different things, but usually it's called an ICE, an independent cost estimator. You want somebody that's verifying that the pricing you're getting from the contractor is reasonable. And one thing I have found with this, and I've been involved in a number of these, the discrepancy is not usually between the ICE and the contractor. The discrepancy is between the owner's budget and what the job costs. And that's sort of that's a challenge here. You got to have folks with a willingness to do innovation. If the owner says, no, I want what I want, this is what I always get, it always looks like this is how I want it, you really stifle the value of this collaboration that's going on. Again, more resources. You got to have the right resources, the people that have the right mindset for looking for innovation. And you got to be available. We have a project where the owner has sort of offloaded the coordination to a consultant. And they're a good consultant, but we need the owner in the room because there's price decisions that are being made. And so we're having to kind of pull the owner back into the room. You got a lot of meetings with these too. So here's a couple examples. So more slides. This is a bridge out in Idaho. This was a CMGC project. It was you see the old picture was an old suspension one-lane bridge out in the national forest, middle of nowhere. Federal highway, a Western Federal Lands Division contracted with us to be the designer and brought on the engineer. This is the neat thing about this is if you look at the two pictures, it's an asymmetrical suspension bridge with one tower. So it's all anchored off one side. It's one of, one of 7 in the world. But again, it was a very, very difficult site to get the cranes in, to get the equipment in, to get materials in. It's historic, on and on and on. And the working with the contractor, we're able to, so where are you going to set your crane? Working on how to set up the anchorage points. There was early work done on making sure that the anchor point was competent, had competent rock in order to support this structure. Won a national award. So in the world of acronyms, I think this won a DBI award, if I remember. All right, we're going to see if this works here. So this is I-70 in west of Denver. I mentioned this earlier. About a $900 million CMGC project. Incredibly complex. And we'll see if we can get the video to run. While he does that, I want to just describe this project. Very complex work environment, very difficult terrain, and very complicated job. If it doesn't work, we'll jump to the next. We'll see it some other time. When the slides go out, you'll be able to. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Restart the slides.
All right. I don't think there's any music here. And there's a test here as we go through this. If you can double up the speed. So I'm going to ask you a question, see how many people are paying attention. So this is an animation that we've developed that shows and there's a number of animations on this project, including how the gantry system that walks across the top of these pier caps sets the structure. So you're seeing this thing snake its way through this. It's a combination of widening and geometry improvements. All right, come on, go faster. There we go. Now we're going. I've seen this solution only a couple times in my career, but I think it's genius. And this job's well under construction now. Kramer North America is the contractor. I'm just going to stop it because I think you guys have seen enough. So, all right. What'd you see? Cars are on the wrong side of the road. You didn't notice? Cars are on the wrong side of the road. It's like, what? Whoa. East is west and west is east. Left is right and right is left. What they did was, in order to come through this big curve here, you see this crossover spot where the west and the eastbound lanes have flopped. And the reason that was done is you're in a very sharp, tight canyon. This is existing interstate, but it's way below standard. And so what they did was to improve the radius of the curve, they switched traffic over. So traffic is running on the wrong side for a distance of a little over a mile. The diverging diamond out here at coming into the stadium, have you ever noticed you're on the wrong side of the road? I'm sure you have. Because when people first time they drive one of those diverging diamonds, it's a little unnerving. But again, how did this happen? It happened because contractor, the owner, engineer, working through a very, very complex problem, we're able to come up with a solution. So here's another example of CMGC. This is a parking deck. It's called a CONRAC, Consolidated Rental Car Facility. They're built all over the country at airports. All the rental car companies come to one place. This has a train running into it. Again, very complicated, where you had existing buildings, you had existing activities going on, had to be able to build in a very compressed and compact environment. This is a job we're working on right now. I've been directly involved in it. It's a widening of I-75 in Florida. This was in Florida. You're not allowed to use the word progressive. So in Florida, we call it phase design build. Some of you get it. Some of you, come on. All right, anyway. It's called phase design build in Florida. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. In this project, some of the things we were able to do is advance some early construction. We have the famous gopher tortoise in Florida. It's an endangered species. It's a turtle, likes to dig holes next to roads. And they're endangered, so you got to go out there and you have gopher tortoise wranglers, and they go out and they collect up the tortoises and you relocate them to a tortoise farm or something. It's being able to get out there early, identify these tortoises, and begin to move them have enabled us to move the job along. We've also been able to overlap some of the environmental permits with the design work, and we're continuously evaluating engineering and construction solutions. Here's an example where the price that was presented the first time was like, oh no, that price is no good. We've been working together with the client. Our direct client is Anderson-Columbia, the contractor, but also with FDOT to come up with ideas to reduce the cost to get it back within the budget. Some of that's risk. Some of it is back to the marble floors and the gold sink. The drainage guy wants brand new pipe. The traffic guy wants brand new guardrail. The bridge guy wants a brand new bridge. The ITS guy wants all new ITS stuff. They can't afford it. The purpose of this job is to add one lane in each direction. It's not to give them a new road. And so that's been the dialogue. It's been very healthy because of the type of contract we've had and the relationship and working together in a very collaborative way. And stay tuned. But it's going to work. It's going to work. All right, I'm not going to do another video. Sorry, I had something blowing up. It's kind of fun to watch, but So this is a parking deck and facilities at Tampa Airport. This was, the punchline here is 9 months versus 15 seconds. So the length of demolition is basically, instead of dismantling this thing over a period of months, contractor said, hey, I'll bring in a controlled demolition contractor. We'll blow this thing up and it'll be down in 10 seconds. We'll pick it up and we'll be out of here, and saved a bunch of time. But if you were proposing that as an owner, it'd be very difficult to anticipate all the ways you could blow a building up and not blow up the neighborhood and all that other stuff. So this is a great example of how you bring a qualified team in, a demolition team in, and say, what's the best way, most efficient way, and cheapest way to safely take this thing down. All right, so the process continues to evolve. Florida is evaluating a modification to the phase design build process, where instead of selecting one team based on qualifications, they're going to select 3 teams. Oh, what's the point of that? They will select 3 teams based on qualifications, and then they will pay you for your time to further develop the concepts, better ideas. They're called alternative technical concepts, but come up with a better mousetrap. Owners evaluating, you're a contractor, you're a contractor, you're a contractor, I'm talking to you, but we're not talking together, so everybody's got their own secrets. You come back to me and I say, yeah, I accept all these things, give me a price. 3 parties give a price. The owner says, okay, I'm going to say 50% of my decision is based on your price, and 50% is how well we got along during the innovation phase. We didn't get along at all, so you get a 0, but you have a great price, but you did okay, and your price is okay, and you got a low price, but I really liked how you performed during the innovation phase. I pick you. And so that's there. And again, this continues to evolve. Stay tuned. Watch E&R. See what happens. I think it's a good way of trying to continue to improve the way we deliver work, because it gives the owner more price certainty, but you still get the advantage of the contractor innovating and giving better ideas, and also suggestions regarding de-risking. All the words and stuff on here, you can read that. But the fundamentals of this method are, instead of 1, there's 3. And it's not the only place it's been done. I saw it done out in LA on the Sepulveda Pass, which was a huge transit project that not doing so well, but I think Florida's got a pretty good handle on this. The picture there, that's I-4, that's down around Disney World. And that's where this project is. It's $1 billion worth of work. They've got a total of 4 contracts under this modified phase design process. We're working for the owner on this particular project, but we're getting ready to participate with contractors on 3 or 4 others in the state of Florida under this scenario. So this is hot off the press. The last slide I added, I was looking at construction dive. I get it every day, and this pops up. So this is in Baltimore. This is the tunnel in Baltimore. It's an old stone arch train tunnel that goes out to the Port of Baltimore. And one of the things that a lot of ports are pushing for are the ability to do double stack trains. Stack 2 containers on the trains. Virginia did a lot of double stack work maybe 15, 20 years ago so that they could allow for double stacks. In this particular case, in Virginia, I think they were actually able to cut the top out of the tunnel. This is a stone, not a stone like rock, but stone is in place stone arch. So in order to do this, you have to lower the track. I mean, that's really the only way to do it. It's the only efficient way to do it, is to try and lower the track. Well, the plan was, and again, when I was with Lane Construction, we were considering bidding this job. We ultimately didn't, but it was going to require this very on again, off again. You lower a piece, lower the track, open it to traffic, They wanted train traffic to run the whole time that this was being done. What Skanska did was they came back and said, hey, look, let us close this thing, and we can lower this thing and do it efficiently, get the track in record time, and saves nearly 2 years off the project. So I think of this as a great example where a progressive design build, complex project, owner thought they knew what they wanted, contractor and designer came in with a better idea, and there's the results. So a great example. Some final thoughts. Collaborative contracting is gaining a lot of popularity in heavy civil work. The complexity of the work, the recognition that contractors are much less inclined to bid large lump sum work. Mr. Vecellio, I know we were talking, you look at a job more than a couple years or more than a couple $100 million, and you want a lump sum, you're going to pay for it. And maybe I just won't even bid it. Some of the biggest heavy civil contractors in the United States have said, no, thank you. I am not going to bid on work of that large work in your state with a lump sum contract. I'll only bid collaborative contracting. And owners are listening and recognizing that. Risk assignment and mitigation continues to be a challenge. Who's going to hold it? You, me. And full integration of this model, I just think it's going to require some time and patience and frankly some flexibility and courage in order to make it happen. So I would say it's an exciting time. It's way different than when I was a field engineer. But these projects they're fantastic projects. They're great opportunities, and we need lots of engineers. So hurry up, get in the field, and let's build some stuff. So with that, a little bit about my journey. So yeah, and I'll go fast here because I don't want to keep you guys. You see that I originally was a fashion model. Isn't that unbelievable? Parents would dress a child like that. I think that's horrible. I really do. I really do. So the picture in the middle is part of my distinguished career here at Virginia Tech. I was a captain on the rugby team. We had a great rugby team at the time. I think they still do. It slightly interfered with my academic schedule, but I never let rugby or my academic schedule interfere with rugby. I had my priorities straight. Let's see, one of the most important things, I met my bride, Amy. She's a retired teacher now. We met here at Virginia Tech at a rugby party, and I had all my clothes on. She reminds people that I was one of the few that had all their clothes on at that particular party. I don't think they do that anymore. I think, so it's safe to go to a rugby party now. I was president of the fraternity, my fraternity, Phi Delta Theta. Any Phi Deltas in here? No. They've been kicked off campus at least twice, maybe 3 times. So I'm not even sure if they're probably on double secret probation right now. But again, that had something to do with my distinguished career here at Virginia Tech. I love my time here. I loved it so much I took an extra year. And there were certain classes that I liked so much, I took them twice, including 5-hour calculus, including a quarter of physics, including thermodynamics. I got an A in thermo, second time. Fantastic, fantastic career here at Virginia Tech. In spite of my other activities, I was able to graduate and have a relatively successful career. Picture in the middle, I'm a resident engineer. The little guy next to me is my son. Stay tuned. One of his first times out on a job with me, we were doing something at night. The picture here with the paving, and I didn't realize this till I put the picture up here. It says Virginia Paving, the piece of paving equipment. Again, I'm the resident engineer. These are 2 very senior inspectors, Al Reed and John Wynn, decades of experience. Virginia Paving's paving a road, Lane Construction on Virginia Paving. So I leave VDOT, I go to work for Lane Construction. So the contractor was working for me, I'm working for them. A lot of that in my career. I had the opportunity to become the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Transportation. Where's David? David Clark here, Christiansburg resident engineer, best residency in the state. They do a fantastic job. He has the second best job at VDOT. The best job is commissioner. Loved leading the organization. If you're looking for a place for an adventure and great opportunity, VDOT is a great place to work. My time at Lane Construction, I was here 6 years after I left VDOT. Great company, 100-year history. They're now owned by one of the largest heavy civil companies in the world called We Build. It's not a very good name, but it's a great company, and they deliver infrastructure all over the world. Got to visit the Purple Line back in the winter, and that's, again, we're the engineer of record on that project. These are some of I'm just sightseeing. The rest of these guys are the ones that actually designed it and are delivering the work. So some stops along the way. I started out, first engineering jobs with Fairfax County. First job was with Hitchcock General Contracting as a laborer. I was 14, got a work permit, sweeping floors, carrying lumber, stuff like that. Worked at VDOT twice, once in the field and then once leading the organization. The Silver Companies was a developer that I worked for in the early 2000s. We built all kinds of commercial development in Central Virginia. The Lane Construction Company we talked about. And now I'm with Atkins Realis. We are number 4 in the world, global engineering companies, 4th largest engineering company globally. I think we're 5th in the US, like 3rd in transportation, big company, do lots of great things. I'm gonna do a little bit more of an advertisement for them in a minute. And then I was even on the supplier side at one point, back to my distinguished career at Virginia Tech. I worked for Anheuser-Busch. I was the bud man. So the job of the bud man is you're trying to push Anheuser-Busch products to students. So I deliver kegs to fraternities, I deliver kegs to restaurants, and I get all the free beer I could drink in minimum wage. So I've actually even worked on the supplier side. Some of my job titles, you can see them there. You know, I always like the bud man. But that's some of my stops along the way. But my favorite title, and the one I'm filling out an application for anything, I always write I'm an engineer. And you know, more than anything, that's what I'm proud of being able to carry that title. So there have been some good days and bad days along the way, and I thought I'd grab a couple pictures of how bad or how good it can get. So the picture in the top, the safety service troll, that's the next day. The one in the other corner is the day before. At the time, it was the largest wreck in U.S. history, 119 cars on I-95, 2001. I was a resident engineer. It was a bad day. Fortunately, only one person was killed in the accident, but the interstate was closed for 18 hours. Then the good news. So I get a call from the commissioner. He says, hey, you're going to be on Good Morning America. They want to, it's the largest accident in U.S. history. You're going to be on the news. Oh, great. So fortunately, combination of weather and hard work by our crews, worked all night, got the wreck cleaned up, got the road open, and trucks came out there to film it. There was nothing to film. They did like 2 minutes. There was a wreck here, blah, 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 off to the next story. So that was the good news. In the bottom, so in Virginia, you have a cabinet secretary of transportation. That was Aubrey Lane. He was my boss, worked for the governor. We're celebrating the opening of the Silver Line, having a big time. The Silver Line's an extension of the metro out to Dulles Airport. We're at the groundbreak. Everybody's yucking it up, having a big time. I get a phone call. Hey, you need to check your email. I look on my phone, blah, blah, blah. There's a picture. This is a Big Walker Tunnel. Going into West Virginia, had a small fire, cooked the inside of the tunnel. The amazing thing, and I didn't show this picture, but the amazing thing about this is that nobody was killed. Part of the reason you're seeing so much smoke is they started up the exhaust fans to evacuate the smoke. And I've got an even better picture of the smoke after that, but that's what it looks like. They had the road repaired within 48 hours, was open to traffic. Picture in upper left. I was fortunate and unfortunate in my career. Only one employee killed when I was either leading the organization or involved. Employee Carlos Keene was hit by a coal truck. You can't really tell, but there's a backhoe there in the front that the truck slammed into. Picture at the top is me at the Workers' Memorial. So if you're driving down I-64, heading to Richmond, coming down the mountain, there's the second pole off the lower one. That's the memorial. And all those names scrolled on the side are people that have been killed that are employees, that were employees of VDOT. I love this picture because nobody got hurt. This is a dump truck that obviously is upside down. Snow removal. Got off the side of the road, rolled over. Driver's fine. Yard's not doing so good because it now has 8 tons of salt in the front yard. And plants don't like salt. So, but that kind of stuff would happen all the time, unfortunately. This is the day after a blizzard. We had almost 2 feet of snow in Northern Virginia. I'm standing in the middle of 66, and this is a crew. We're inside the Beltway. We actually shut down the 66 inside the Beltway so we could plow the snow. You see the type of equipment, the heavy motor graders and things like that, but just the hard work of the folks at VDOT. But mostly good days. So I'll finish up with these. Upper left, my boss and my boss's boss, that's Governor McAuliffe. That's literally the last day I was commissioner. It happened to be a holiday. It's one of those weird holidays early in January. Governor McAuliffe, he couldn't miss a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting. He loved that stuff. He's a premier politician. He says, come on, we're going down here. This was a groundbreaking for the high-rise bridge in Hampton Roads. And so that's my last official picture as commissioner. Anybody recognize the guy in the pink? Come on. The all-time, ever, forever sack leader in the NFL. You guys don't know that? Tech graduate, Outland Trophy winner, Hall of Famer, Redskin, briefly. Yeah, that's Bruce Smith. So he spoke at a conference that we had, and I had the opportunity to introduce him. He and I were here at Virginia Tech at the same time. We probably bumped into each other in a few parties and fraternities and stuff like that, but we won't talk about. But again, just an awesome opportunity to meet a true legend. And then back to the little kid on the work zone. That's my son and my grandson. So that's Matt Kilpatrick. He is a senior inspector at VDOT. So, carrying on the tradition. And Zach, who's 4, maybe he's the next generation of VDOT inspector. So quickly on Atkins Realis, and then I'm going to wrap up. That's us. We do everything. We're everywhere. Love us. Come work for us. We're hiring. We really are. I'm joking a little bit, but we are absolutely looking for engineers, experienced and not, all over the country and all over the world. We are about 7,000 employees now here in the U.S., doing all types of engineering work, from traditional civil engineering to nuclear to consultancy to architecture to construction management, all of it. All right, so here's free advice. So again, the good thing about this is you're not losing any money on it if you think it's garbage. But I do think there's a couple important things. Get your PE license. When I graduated from here, I skipped the EIT exam because I had a rugby party or other important things. But I had somebody that was much wiser than me that told me a couple years out of school, said, go get your EIT, get your EIT, do it. And I did it. And then 2 years later, after 4 years out, I got my professional license. Whether you seal a plane, I've never sealed a plane in my life. David? Never once. Do you own a seal? I don't know one either. But he and I are both licensed engineers and have been for decades. It's a very important credential in civil engineering, whether you ever are the engineer of record or not. Volunteer for assignments and lean in. Don't stuff your hands in the pocket. Don't put your head down. Lean in. Take on assignments. People will recognize you and you'll learn. This is important as you begin to lead others. Take care of your teammates and the people that are working for you. They're the ones that make you successful, not you. don't hold on too tight to your career path. A lot of you have ideas of where you want to be, and that's fantastic. And you might stay in that for the rest of your life, and that's great. But I can tell you, I never, ever would have predicted my career path. And the opportunities, I've never regretted a job that I've had. Some I've liked more than others. Some have been better than others, but I've never regretted them. And again, the path is just sort of a journey that I've been on. Make decisions and solve problems. I can't stand engineers that just worry things to death. Make a decision, solve a problem, move on. And if you make a mistake, don't do it again. You'll never regret being honest. It's hard being honest sometimes, admitting mistakes or telling the truth. It is hard sometimes. It is hard, but you'll never regret it. Good judgment comes from bad experiences. You're not going to learn anything from the second kick of the mule. Mule kicks you, well, don't let it kick you again. But you learn something from that. So think about that. And then do what you like and like what you do. And finally, treat people the way you want to be treated. So thank you. And I'm ready for questions if we got a minute or two.
We can take a couple.
All right. It's extra credit. Dr. Ford said you get like an A++ if you ask a good question.
Simple one. Favorite project?
So for years there's a class here where you interview graduates, and that's one of the questions asked. And my answer is I don't have a favorite. There's so many things that I've been able to do over the years, involved in. Some of them, we were talking earlier today with some of the scholars about some really simple things that I've been involved in that drove me crazy for years. And especially as commissioner, you have a little bit more authority, and you can just sometimes say, well, we're going to do this. And I was able to do that a couple of times to make significant improvements for not much money. But I couldn't pin like my premier project. I would say in terms of jobs, you're the commissioner of VDOT. Sort of everything after that it's different. It's different. My role today is much more my official job is to find the next job for our company. So that's what I'm a scout. They call it business development, but I don't like that word because that to me means golf and goofing off. But my job is to find the next job. That's what I do most of the time. And I have nobody that works for me. I have 0 employees. I had 8,000 employees. I got 0 employees. And Dave was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And it is for this point in my career because I'm able to, I say I work for everybody in the company. That's who I work for. Now I only report to 2 people in the company. But I'm responsible to everybody. So I'd say more than a job, or more than a project, I'd say leading VDOT was probably kind of the, not even highlight, but, just an awesome thing. Thank you. One more?
One more.
Ask a question. Thinking towards like some of these heavy civil construction projects where I'm thinking of 81, for example, where they've set aside, they figure we have $300 million wide in 81 here. Is there any risk to the owner where they've put out that budget as far as how much money they have? And that, or will the process be so competitive that a contractor isn't going to know internally, hey, I can actually do that for $200 million and save some of that.
If it's a competitive process, then my view is I don't think contractors say, oh, look, there's $300 million, I'm going to take $300 million. They're competing for the job, and they're going to bid what they think the value of the job is with the risk and the reward both that they should have on that job. So I don't know. I've never thought that contractors bid to budgets. frankly, I think we mostly ignore them. Like either you look at it and say, oh, that's plenty, I'm good, or like they're crazy, that's nowhere near enough money, and I'm still going to bid it. I'm going to tell them I'm going to bid this, because a lot of times contractors will warn owners, say, that's not the number, and they'll say, yeah, that's the number, we'll see, and usually the contractor's right. But I don't think that being like super secret squirrel about the budget is a good idea. I think the owners are doing themselves a disservice by not telling contractors what the budget is, because sometimes if the budget's not what we may just pass on it and say, well, that's unrealistic, I'm not going to waste my time on it. Or conversely, oh yeah, that's plenty, that's a good opportunity, that's worth us putting time into. Well, thank you.
Let's thank Mr. Kilpatrick. To help you remember the event, we have a couple of gifts for you, and you can stay around here or go up to the third floor and get food and talk, and Mr. Kilpatrick will be up and others. Thank you very much for joining us.